This defeat trigger means we lose the match. The next thing we do is we're going to assign a trigger of what happens if we lose with Terry. So we're going to copy that because it'll make this process a lot faster. We'll delete this trigger command and instead we'll change it to deaths. Player 1, which is us, has suffered at least one death of a unit, heroes, and we assigned it as Alan Schwartzer, but again, I will show you how to change the name. Hit OK. Now the trigger's like that. Now, if you want, though, I can show you that. Now, I'm going to show you also the basic format for a StarCraft-styled defeat. First, you pause the game. You hit display text. Carry forward has been killed. You pause for, you're going to want to pause for 5,000 seconds. And you're going to want to play away. That's the StarCraft format for a defeat when a hero has been killed. That's the basic StarCraft format. Now, since we assigned it as a switch operation, we also want to put an additional condition. Switch Terry is set. Because that means that we need to at least see that cutscene first before we get Terry on our side. Before we continue the triggers, I'm going to show you some stuff with the properties. You can double hit points are one of the hit points are only a bit. All these things, all the unit properties. We're going to get more specific now. I'm going to show you how to manage everything. Hit points shows you the percentage of how many hit points. You can actually adjust the percentage how you want. For example, if we were to put this number to 50%, this Marine would only have 50% of its life, which means 50% Marines have 40 life, 50% of 40 is only 20 hit points. Shield will only apply to a Protoss unit or a unit that is modded. You assign shield will assign reducing shield to where you can reduce the shield percentage. For example, a Zealot has 60 shield 60 shield points in total. Reducing it to 50 brings it down to 30 and stuff like that. Energy is for units like Ghosts, Queens, and Dark and High Templar. That just allows you to adjust the amount of shield energy they start with, whether they start off with 100% or not 100%. Resources is for stuff like mineral fields and gas fields. That just assigns of how much resources are in that tile. In hangar are for units that are like Reavers and stuff. That just shows you how much scarabs each one start. For example, for a Reaver, that shows you how much scarabs are in its capacity right at the start. For vultures, it'd be spider mines. Carriers, interceptors, and whatnot. Burrow. Now, initial state. This shows you how the unit is initially. For example, if Burrow is assigned with Zerg units, this unit automatically is burrowed when the game begins. In transit is for Terran buildings only. This shows you that this building starts off right away in the air. Cloak means that for certain units like the Ghosts and stuff, they start off cloaked. Invincible means that this unit does not have a hit point bar. It cannot receive damage. It cannot receive damage or be instantly killed by another thing, or be instantly killed. It will have. You can use invincible unit. Using invincible units is a way for. You can use invincible units as a way for cutscenes and stuff. And basically to let as a way for cut might be as a suggestion ways for cutscenes and stuff, or for certain UMS maps like I don't know, I can't really think of anything specifically, but for certain UMS, you can also assign them as like as ways to make things a little bit more interesting. There are many things you can use invincible units with. It just depends on what you want. And hallucinated means that this unit is a hallucination made by a Protoss. Which hallucinations cannot damage, they can only distract. So think about these unit properties when you were trying to make a map. It'll make your game a little bit more interesting and stuff. Now that we have a general idea of what we want, I'm going to show you how to do the winning trigger, and then I'll show you now how to do the winning trigger, and I'm going to do specifically, and then I'm going to go into each trigger in depth, and I'm going to show you how to work it. Right now you have an idea of how to work with locations and stuff. So, for a winning trigger, we hit player 1, player 2, who is the enemy. So that means the player 2, the Zerg over there, has to command 0 buildings. Once that happens, you hit victory, and that means you win the map. Now that we have done everything, it's time to go into detail about what each. Now that we have what you need, it's time to go into detail with every trigger you need. We'll hit new. We'll hit new. First thing we do is we're going to hit new. And I'm not going to actually assign the triggers. I'm going to show you what happens. Accumulate means that the player has to accumulate an amount of resources before the trigger activates. Quality, you can assign quality with number, resources with ore or gas and ore, and player 1 and the current player. Always means the player has always means that the player that this happens. Always means that this trigger always happens and there is no external influence needed. Bring, I showed you how to do that. Command shows you what you need to do. Quality, it's the same thing, I showed you that, actually. Command. Command the least. This trigger means that you command the least number, will activate if you command the least number of whatever you assign. So, for example, you can use that to assign that if you have the lowest number of men, you lose, or something like that. You can also command the least. You can also use this to command the least at. This means that if I were to command this amount of men, buildings, or otherwise at this location, and I have the less amount, this happens. Command the most is the same, is vice versa. Same thing with command the most and. When the countdown timer means how to set a countdown. Means with a countdown means that when the countdown timer reaches a certain number, for example, at least, let's say that we want a condition. Let's say if this map was timed, if we wanted the countdown timer to at least to be at 200, to be lower than 200 seconds, a warning symbol will appear saying that we can have a warning text. We can have a text appear that'll have a warning that we don't have a lot of time left. If you want to assign it a countdown timer where the number has to be 0, you just simply hit 0 and at most. We'll turn it off for a minute. Death is the same thing. It's like you suffer the quality means of how many deaths you have suffered of something. Elapsed time is different than countdown timer. Elapsed time means the total time that this game is played. So, for example, if the game lasts more than 1,000 seconds, a Marine will we're going to have a Marine comment. So we're going to have something that we'll have the game at least 1,000 seconds. We're actually going to put this in. We're going to have a Marine say,